Hi, Paul Richter with LA Times. Ambassador Cretz or anybody else who is prepared to answer this, I'd like to know, it's been a couple of weeks since Gaddafi disappeared from sight. I wonder, the TNC must have been in communication with some of these militias. Have they gotten word so far on whether the leadership of these militias is willing to, fall in under the leadership of the national military authority, or is there still uncertainty about to what extent they're going to fall in line?
I think one of the leading militias headed by Belhaj, which is of the Islamist bent, he's, I think, publicly going on record saying that that his militia and other militias needed to be brought into the national security, the overall national security force that will be built up over the next coming weeks and days and weeks. So I think that that's a good sign. There probably are going to be some militias that are going to be more problematic than others. But at this particular point, I think that there is certainly from the top levels of the TNC, a recognition that this needs to be done. And I think that they'll get cooperation by and large. But again, there is an unknown factor because there's a lot of skepticism, at least some skepticism among some of the militias that have not really, especially maybe from the West, that have not had real close contact with the TNC throughout the crisis. But it's a problem that we're all aware of. The TNC is aware of it, and it's something that's going to have to be dealt with, as Travis said, right up front.
Since there's nobody else here, I have
But
Okay, I do have another question, which is the neighbors of Libya have an important part to play in all this, and I wonder what the indications are about cooperation from them. I mean, some Gaddafi family members went to Algeria. What kind of mood are the Algerians in regarding the TNC, and what about the Egyptians?
Yeah, I looked. There's no hiding the fact that some of the neighbors of Libya and certainly some of the countries on the African continent have not taken the most forward-leaning approach that they could have with respect to the TNC. I know that I was in Addis Ababa several weeks ago with Mahmoud Jibril, and we were working to try to overcome misunderstandings, misconceptions between the AU stand, which has been seen as problematic by a lot of the Libyan members of the TNC. There were misunderstandings on both. I mean, the AU believing that the TNC hadn't paid them the proper respect by visiting and by trying to promote relations, and for obviously on the TNC part, that the Africans hadn't been more forthright with respect to their position on Gaddafi needing to leave the political scene. So there are going to be there are problems with some of the nations, and as you all know, I mean, it's no secret that throughout his tenure, Gaddafi has sprinkled money generously on several countries on the continent, and it may well be that this is payback or something along those lines. But we're hoping that for those countries, especially in Africa, that continue to hold out. That they're history is moving on, and if they don't change their position very soon, they're going to be on the wrong side of it. With respect to, there's going to be problems that the new Libya is going to have to deal with their neighbors in terms of arms, in terms of borders, in terms of Al-Qaeda in the Maghreb. So I think it's probably going to behoove those African nations that still believe in any way, shape, or form that their future lies with Gaddafi, that they're going to have to take a new position, not only for their present well-being, but I think for the future, sanctity of their borders and their situations inside their country.
Jeff Berrigan from Al Jazeera. You just talked about the neighborhood. What's the diplomatic carrot and stick approach to backing up being on the right side of history, one? And two, what about the sort of elephant in the room in terms of Congress? That is Megrahi. And what's going to be done about trying to locate him, find him, reel him in, bring him to justice in the eyes, at least from an American standpoint, in order to sort of loosen up more, any more impediments to participating in the help and the rebuilding of Libya?
Well, I think carrot and sticks. This is going to be. We hope that those African nations that continue to, or those other nations around the world that continue to hold out, that we'll see it in their interest, and if they want to be part of the international community, that they're going to have to take a different approach toward Libya. We hope that the AU, individual African countries have done quite well. I mean, several of them. I think the number of African countries who've recognized Libya is now up to 20, or something in that range. So it's a question of, can the AU mobilize its bureaucracy and overcome whatever bureaucratic intransigence exists to take a better position. And we understand that there are efforts underway to get the vote to enable Libya to take its rightful seat as in the AU. Megrahi, we've made it clear, the Secretary, as recently as last Thursday in her meetings with the Libyan leadership, that Megrahi remains a very sensitive issue for the United States, and that we would continue to raise it at the highest levels. And in return, I think the leadership understands that this is a sensitive issue, and that they're going to have to take a good look at it when they're in a better position once they've established themselves.
I think we have excuse me for just 1 minute, I think we have a dangling question on the UN. Mark, would you like to pick that up?
I think that was your question, wasn't it? Yeah.
Please.
Well, I think the UN was at a little bit of a disadvantage in Libya because Ian Martin's team could not work formally directly with the TNC because they have, the member state was the current regime, and while they were very big in their humanitarian response through OCHA, their presence now in Tripoli, they're going to have to work very quickly to sort of catch up and make up time in terms of the contacts with the new leadership to put in place an effective program. But if Ian were here, I'm certain that he would say what we've also been saying, is that the Libyans are going to lead this. The United Nations and the United States and the rest of the international community will do what it can to plug gaps, particularly with experts in areas that the Libyan leadership doesn't have. For example, coordination. The international community is about to, if not already, descending on Libya, offering help. How to coordinate that help so that it is covering all the most urgent needs and not just everybody filling the same need and a bunch of other needs going unmet is a real challenge. And it's something the United Nations is pretty good at and wants to take on, and the Libyans are very comfortable with that because they recognize they've never had to deal with the international community before, and they don't know how to do this coordination piece. So that's an area where Ian and his team is going to be able to come in and really help them out where they don't have the skill set that they need to deal with us. But on many issues, I think what the UN team in Libya is going to want to look back on it and say is that the Libyans led, the new leaders led, and they were responsible for the important reforms that are to come.
Okay, thank you. We've got quite a few people left and only 5 minutes. Please, no statements, short questions.